Introduce the single dad, his struggles, and the snowy city streets. He notices the elderly woman searching through trash. Show her distress and hint that there's something unusual about her. Snow fell in soft, relentless flurries, blanketing the city in a quiet hush. Streetlights flickered along the empty sidewalks, their pale yellow glow reflecting on wet asphalt. Christmas Eve usually brought laughter, decorations, and warm smells of baked goods, but for Ethan, a single dad juggling late-night janitorial shifts, it was just another cold, lonely night. He pushed his cart along the alley behind the corner grocery store, his gloves stiff with frost. His young son, Liam, was at home with his grandmother tonight, tucked in bed, counting the hours until Christmas morning. Ethan had promised himself he'd be home sooner, but extra shifts meant paying the bills, keeping the tiny apartment warm, keeping food on the table. As he reached for another overflowing trash bag, a faint noise made him pause. It was soft, almost imperceptible, a low shuffle, a faint rustle, a whimper carried on the cold wind. Ethan froze, heart tightening. He scanned the alley. Empty. Just broken boxes, crumpled newspapers, and puddles reflecting the streetlight above. Then he heard it again, a small, fragile sigh. He followed the sound carefully, stepping over icy puddles and discarded cardboard. And there, beneath a torn blanket half buried in a pile of trash, he saw her. An elderly woman, hunched and trembling, rummaging desperately through bags of garbage. Her coat was thin and threadbare, her hair streaked with gray, her hands red and raw from the cold. She looked so small against the towering buildings, so fragile, so human. Ethan's chest tightened. He'd seen homeless people before, but something about her tonight, it wasn't just cold or hunger. There was a weariness in her eyes, a story he didn't yet understand. "Ma'am," he called, gently approaching. "Are you okay? Do you need some help?" She looked up, startled, eyes wide and wary. For a moment, she said nothing, just clutched a torn bag closer to her chest. Then, in a frail voice, she whispered, I'm looking for something." Ethan knelt down slowly, keeping his hands visible. "It's freezing out here. Come on, let me help you." The woman hesitated, shivering violently. Her lips trembled as she glanced at the piles of trash surrounding her. "You wouldn't understand," she murmured. Ethan shook his head softly. "Try me. I've had my share of hard nights. Let me help." A long pause. Then, reluctantly, she nodded. He helped her up and led her toward the small warmth of his van, the engine already running. Snowflakes clung to her hair, and her hands were shaking so badly he had to take them in his own to guide her. As she settled into the seat, wrapped in a spare coat, Ethan glanced at her face, illuminated by the dashboard's soft light. Something inside him knew this wasn't just a random encounter. There was a reason fate had brought them together tonight. And whatever truth lay hidden behind her tired eyes, it was about to change his life forever. Ethan drove slowly through the quiet streets, the heater on full blast in his old van. The warmth was immediate, but the elderly woman, her name he still didn't know, remained shivering, clutching the thin coat around her shoulders. "Do you want some hot chocolate?" Ethan asked gently, reaching into a thermos he kept for himself. She hesitated, glancing at him as if deciding whether he could be trusted. Finally, with a small nod, she took the cup. The liquid trembled in her hands, but she sipped carefully. A soft exhale of relief escaped her lips. "Thank you," she whispered. "You're welcome," Ethan replied, keeping his tone light. "But I need to know, why are you out here tonight? Christmas Eve isn't the kind of night to be searching through trash." Her eyes flickered to the streetlights outside, then down at her lap. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, almost inaudibly, she murmured, "I'm looking for something that was lost. Something very important." Ethan frowned. "Lost? What kind of?" She shook her head, biting her lip. "You wouldn't understand." Ethan leaned back, giving her space but not letting go of his calm presence. "Try me," he said softly. "I might surprise you. I've seen a lot of things people think I won't understand. I've lost things myself." The woman's gaze softened slightly. A tear slipped down her cheek. My granddaughter, she finally said. She went missing years ago. And every Christmas I come out here hoping I might find a clue. Something to tell me she's still out there. Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to say something reassuring, but he didn't know what could comfort someone in such a lifelong pain. Instead, he kept driving, letting the silence fill the space, letting her sip the warm drink in peace. After a few minutes, she spoke again. I've asked the police before, but they couldn't help. No one cared. Everyone said it was hopeless. But I can't give up. I need to know. Ethan's heart ached for her. He had lost Clara, his wife, a few years ago, and the memory of that grief made her story hit even harder. You're not alone tonight, he said quietly. I can't bring her back, but I can help you. At least for tonight. We'll figure it out together. The woman's hands shook as she grasped his. You don't know me, she said. Why would you care? Ethan smiled softly. Maybe I've been where you are. Maybe I just know what it feels like to hope against hope. Or maybe it's Christmas. And sometimes, that's enough to care about someone you don't even know yet. Her lips trembled into a small, grateful smile. Thank you, she whispered. I can't remember the last time someone said that to me. As the van turned a corner, the distant sound of church bells echoed through the streets. Snow swirled in the headlights, covering the city in a soft white blanket. Ethan felt, deep in his chest, that this night would not be ordinary. Whatever truth lay hidden in her story, the reason she was out there, searching through trash, alone, he was about to uncover it. And when he did, it would leave him stunned. The van rolled quietly through the snow-blanketed streets. Ethan's mind raced, but he stayed focused on the woman beside him. Her eyes, glistening in the dim dashboard light, held a lifetime of sorrow and secrets he could feel pressing against the fragile walls she'd built around herself. After a few moments of silence, Ethan asked gently, Do you have any idea where to start? Any clues at all? The woman shook her head slowly. All I have are memories and a few letters. But they've gone missing over the years. Every year I come back, hoping to find a trace. Something that might lead me to her. Ethan nodded, trying to process the weight of her words. Searching trash on Christmas Eve, chasing memories that might have faded forever, it was almost impossible. And yet, there was determination in her eyes that stirred something in him. Maybe we can start small, Ethan suggested. Look for anything unusual. Letters, papers, even something someone might have thrown away, but meant something to her. You never know, people throw away things that are actually important. The woman's lips quivered, but she managed a faint nod. You really think there could be something tonight? Ethan smiled softly. I don't know, but hope is better than giving up. They spent the next hour methodically going through the piles behind the grocery store. Ethan's hands were numb from the cold, but he refused to quit. Every crumpled paper and broken box seemed to hold a whisper of the past. Then, buried beneath a pile of discarded envelopes, he saw it. A small, worn notebook, the edges frayed and stained. The woman gasped, clutched it to her chest, and her hands trembled. That's hers, she whispered. Tears ran freely down her cheeks. I knew someone had found it, but I never thought. Ethan knelt beside her. Who's it from? What does it say? She opened the notebook with shaking hands. Inside were letters, sketches, and small notes from her granddaughter. Memories, confessions, even tiny drawings of their time together before she disappeared. The depth of love and longing made Ethan's heart ache. She left these behind, the woman said, her voice barely audible. I didn't know if I'd ever see them again. I thought she was gone forever. Ethan put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You found her memories tonight. That's something. And maybe it's the first step toward finding her. The woman nodded, clutching the notebook as if it were a lifeline. Then she looked at him, her eyes wide. I've been afraid of the truth for so long. What if she doesn't want to be found? Ethan's voice was firm but kind. Then, at least you know you tried. But I have a feeling she's waiting for someone like you, or maybe someone like me, to help her. Outside, the snow continued to fall, wrapping the city in silence. Ethan glanced at the woman, at the notebook that held a lifetime of love and loss, and felt the weight of the moment. Tonight wasn't just about cold streets and trash piles. It was about hope, family, and the courage to face truths long buried. And as they prepared to leave the alley, Ethan sensed that the most shocking part of this Christmas story, the part that would truly leave him stunned, was still ahead. By the time Ethan and the elderly woman returned to his apartment, the snow had thickened into a soft, blinding white. The van crunched over icy streets, and each gust of wind made the city seem even lonelier. Inside, warmth from the heater seemed to chase away more than just the cold. It offered a small sanctuary for a woman who had spent years searching in vain. She sat on the worn couch, clutching the notebook like a treasure, while Ethan made 2 cups of hot cocoa, setting one in front of her. I don't know how to explain everything, she began, voice trembling. But tonight, I feel like I can. Ethan leaned forward, attentive. Take your time. I'm listening. She exhaled shakily, and for the first time, it seemed as though years of grief and fear were pouring out in a steady stream. Her name is Emily, the woman said softly. My granddaughter. She disappeared 5 years ago. But the truth isn't what anyone thinks. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? I wasn't neglectful, she whispered. It wasn't that I lost her or that she ran away. Emily, she got caught up in something dangerous. Something her father, my son-in-law, didn't want anyone to know about. Ethan's brow furrowed. Dangerous? Yes, she said, gripping the notebook tighter. He was involved with a company doing terrible things. And when Emily discovered something she shouldn't have, he tried to hide her. I never told the police, because I knew they couldn't protect her. But I swore every Christmas Eve I would search for her, hoping she was still alive. Ethan's stomach churned. The pieces began to click together, the fear, the secrecy, the frantic searches in the cold night. And these letters? He asked, nodding toward the notebook. She left them for me, the woman said, tears streaming down her face. Emily wanted me to know she was okay, that she was safe. She even drew little maps and notes just in case I ever came looking. Ethan felt the lump in his throat. He hadn't expected this level of courage from a child, or the years of heartbreak from her grandmother. So, she's alive, he whispered. Yes, the woman said, voice breaking with relief. And tonight, I think, with your help, we might finally bring her home. Ethan nodded. The decision was made in an instant. He couldn't walk away. Not now, not ever. Then we do this together, he said firmly. We find her. And we make sure she's safe. The woman looked at him with a fragile smile, hope flickering in her eyes for the first time in years. Thank you, she whispered. Outside, the snow continued to fall, but it didn't feel cold anymore. The city lights twinkled faintly through the white veil, like stars guiding them forward. For the first time in what felt like forever, Ethan realized that kindness, courage, and love could truly change everything, even on the coldest, darkest nights. Tonight, the search would continue. But Ethan knew, deep in his heart, that the miracle of Christmas wasn't just in finding Emily. It was in the courage to never give up and the unexpected bonds formed along the way. By early morning, the snow had turned the city into a sparkling, quiet wonderland. Ethan, the elderly woman, and the notebook full of clues mapped out the last known locations of Emily. Every step was cautious, careful. After years of fear, they didn't want to risk losing her again. Finally, near an old, abandoned community center at the edge of town, they saw her. Emily, now a young teenager, was crouched inside, cleaning up broken toys and cobbling together small gifts. Her eyes widened in disbelief when she saw her grandmother approaching. "Grandma?" she whispered, voice trembling. "Yes, my darling," the woman said, tears streaming down her face. "I never stopped looking for you. And tonight, I found you." Ethan watched silently, his heart full. He had come to help out of kindness, expecting nothing. Instead, he had become part of a family's reunion, a real Christmas miracle unfolding before him. Emily ran into her grandmother's arms, hugging her tightly. Ethan knelt beside them, and for the first time that night, the teenager looked at him and smiled. "Thank you," she whispered. Ethan's own eyes misted over. "No, thank you for trusting us," he said softly. Together, they walked back through the snow to Ethan's van. He offered blankets, cocoa, and a warm seat for Emily and her grandmother. Liam ran around excitedly, bringing small gifts he had wrapped for the first time with his father's help. Back at the apartment, they celebrated quietly but joyfully. The small Christmas tree twinkled, its lights reflecting in Emily's wide eyes. The warmth of home filled every corner, and the 3 generations of a family, reunited against all odds, sat together, laughing, crying, and sharing stories that had been silenced for far too long. Ethan looked out the frosted window at the quiet city beyond, snowflakes drifting lazily down. He realized something profound. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness could spark the greatest miracles. That night, the city streets were silent, but inside a little apartment, hearts were full. A single dad, an elderly grandmother, and a long-lost granddaughter discovered the true meaning of Christmas: love, hope, and the power of never giving up. And in that moment, Ethan knew that the world, despite all its hardships, still held magic for those brave enough to seek it. The snow fell gently, the fire crackled warmly, and the miracle of Christmas had found them all.